Hello and welcome to another edition of Club Codex, the last one for the year. It's been a long and fruitful year for us all, hasn't it, folks? And now is the time for introspection, retrospection, and a little bit of planning for what's happening in the new year, like tax harvesting. So, guys, let's get started on today's show. We're going to be talking about everything that we've accomplished this year, all the friends we made along the way, and heck, we might even talk about all the money we lost. Kidding. But no, it's going to be great, guys. So stick around in the show. We're going to be covering everything that's happened and maybe even a couple things that are coming up. So see you in the show.
Got that CDX token, we the ones chosen. Every stake, every year, while I stay golden. Codex Club, AI not focused, it's an anthem. CDX got them frozen.
Good morning, Chuck. Good morning, Beeb. How you doing, guys? For those of you who don't know, we got Chuck, a genius analyst here, and CEO extraordinaire, Justin Bibas of the Cryptocurrency Persuasion. You guys enjoying the holidays?
Oh yeah,
Very much.
Much needed. I did a lot of work in last week, but it was like just no meetings, just like writing and chilling, and it was literally just me and Steven. Steven is our Macedonian indentured servant who has to work 24 hours a day under threat,
especially on holidays.
Annihilation. Yeah, you might see him in the Discord. He also has ultimate power, so it's kind of like a trade-off.
That is true. He does get to decide who gets points, who doesn't. We might have given him a little too much power to call him a slave, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he's kind of like the transcendent master, but he needs to kind of appear as a pauper so that the unwashed masses don't fear him.
Yeah, he's like the Wizard of Oz, basically.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I know Bibas was working. I was getting notifications on my phone, and I was ignoring them. What about you, Charles? And were you busy this last week? Did you have some fun with some family? I don't know if you celebrate Christian-ness, but or what you do, but do you do anything fun? Like the menorah?
Yeah, Christmas only reached Canada like last year. Funny enough. So no.
Congrats. Finally.
You should have doubled down. You should have been like, yeah, we don't do that.
No, I've had a wonderful Christmas, non-denominational Christmas. Yeah, it's been great. I've been doing a lot of sleeping and also ignoring some notifications as yourself. And it felt wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, just doing some thinking, doing some planning for, I guess, this week's comeback and start of 2025. Excited to get back to work. Boredom is not that fun.
Yeah,
It's fun for a bit, and then it becomes boredom.
There's only so many hands of Blotcher you can play until you get.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it is like once you're at a certain age, there's only so many video games before you can play before you want to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Before it's
you
like,
can kind of feel your market penetration, your personal market cap, how much you've capitalized on society. You can feel it slipping away every level you beat.
That's true. So true, dude. So I want to talk a little bit about, the news here. We're going to start the news segment in a moment, but I do want to say, I've been kind of unplugged. I don't know about you guys. I've been really focusing more on family, staying off social media, and it kind of did help my mental a little bit. So we don't have a huge news segment here, but let's get started on it anyway. Okay. I'm sure some things have happened.
Breaking news, gotta drop the bomb. Out of school since Marvel's prom.
Now, the first thing that I want to talk about, this seemed to be the biggest news story on Twitter, and tell me if I'm off base here, but maybe it's just my algorithm. But the biggest news story I was seeing on Twitter was this H1B1 drama with Elon Musk and Groypers. I don't know. Were you guys seen this?
Yeah. So Yassine, who is the founder of an app called Dingboard, which is a pretty good AI web-based photo editor. He has been like kind of a developer influencer for a while. He just like literally his whole thing is he just posts the most outrageous thing he can think of and just engagement baits constantly. And so he got he basically posted something along the lines of America would be in the dust if it weren't for Indians. And then he was showing like Indian CEOs, Indian household income in America, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, you can imagine what followed. Essentially like a big race war on Twitter for 48 hours.
Well, I think you might be missing the true inciting event here, which it seemed to me to be Vivek Ramaswamy, who is, if you remember, was running for president on the Republican ticker until he was thoroughly defeated by Trump without even taking the debate stage. He posted a long essay here somewhere, essentially saying that the difference in culture between Americans and here we go. The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit. A key part of it comes down to the C-word, culture. And he gets into this argument where he's essentially saying, you remember the term tiger moms? People were talking about tiger moms a few years ago. That the immigrants to America have a much stronger drive to succeed. They work harder, they work longer, they do it for cheaper. So it's just not worth it to hire native-born Americans, and instead we should expand the H-1B1 process to bring in more people. Now it gets a little bit more complicated than that, but basically you had people exploding, being like, "That's messed up." The reason America is behind isn't because of, I don't know, football or whatever. It's because of H-1B1s. So you just have a very crazy argument blowing up here in this space. Now its relation to us is because it's a very like tech focused endeavor here, right?
Yeah.
The idea being that, tech companies are by and large importing foreign labor, because high skilled foreign labor, because they can often do so cheaper through this H-1B1 process, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys have a preference for this? Because from our space in crypto, I think we have kind of a unique perspective, because we don't necessarily have to do the H-1B1 stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we can hire people from all over the world, anywhere in the world, without any kind of permit or whatever. We work with Indian developers, we work with German developers, South American developers. So what was your take on this? Do you think the culture thing is true? Do you think it's true, or do you think they're missing something here?
What they're missing is indentured servants from Macedonia. And I think that's the conversation we need to open
Well,
up.
actually, no,
So-
don't tell anybody about that, Charles. That's pretty good.
You started the whole show
Tricks of
with
the
it.
trade.
Dude. You got out of the bag.
No, my biggest mistake. Yeah, I mean, I've had, frankly, I'll call it a privilege. I've had the privilege of working with someone who was at one point on an H-1B visa. And essentially, and I think it's a lot more than they work harder because culturally, they're driven to work harder. I think, cultural and nurture versus nature or whatever elements have some stuff to do with it. But the reality is H-1B workers, at the threat of losing their visa, have to work harder, because if they lose their job, they're out. And so you kind of are able to build up these really kind of master-servant relationships with these people, even if you might be paying them a lot, certainly less than a Native American worker, but like, you can treat them like shit because there's nothing they can do about it unless they want to go back and start earning less money. So, the actual drivers of the work output, I think, are much different. And that's why people like working with, H-1B employees, because they don't have as many rights. They'll do more for less money. And certainly couple that with some of the drivers that may lead someone to be willing to emigrate to America to get a better job, more money. Certainly you're filtering out the most, ambitious entrepreneurial people from the country, like, hey, move across the world into this place where, you might not always be comfortable just to make more money. Maybe send it back, maybe just build a life. I would say that's kind of one of the core drivers. And obviously, like, tech guys are going to lobby for more and more and more and more of these visas being issued, because it's like, dude, like, imagine having like an engineer that is probably fabulous, really great, that you can say, you better work the weekend. You better do this. You better do that. You better do the other, that you wouldn't really dream of saying to any other type of worker. Imagine just having infinite of those. So I think we're going to see the tech lobby just constantly pushing for more and more and more of this imported labor, because it is cheaper and it's easier from a manager's perspective, because it's like, they've normalized
So,
sort of.
so when Charles said indentured servitude, I thought it was a joke at first.
It's not a
servitude, but it's pretty much indentured servitude, right? Like if you don't work these hours for this wage, I'm sending you back to England, like or whatever, So kind of a what do you call it? Rebalancing of the power dynamic. You don't have a lot of power in negotiation if you're on one of these visas.
Yeah.
So
you're under your employer's thumb, which is like, I'm an employer, like, that doesn't sound too bad, but, I think we're operating at a much smaller scale than that. So we can like curate the most motivated, smartest, hardest working people just because we're small. But when you're operating with tens of thousands of employees, it's like, dude, you need just the easiest filter, the best slavery mechanisms humanly possible, so that you can just churn through people until you have a really solid staff. And they get the measures for it. And I think if you don't like it, then fight with your vote, fight with your money, whatever. But otherwise, like, they're going to keep pushing it.
I want to connect this back to crypto again, but Charles, you go ahead.
I was just going to add that a lot of the time people think that this, like the increased acceptance of H-1B applicants will take away jobs for Americans. That's true to like some extent, but a lot of the time that is the opposite is actually true, where you can read studies done on immigration in the US by like the American Immigration Council or something. But they have released studies that like the presence of immigrant workers, the increased presence of immigrant workers actually increases jobs for native born Americans, where they have different skill sets. More non-native Americans getting jobs will increase the size of the industry. Companies in that industry will expand their operations. And there's like a myriad of reasons why people born in the US actually benefit from more workers coming in and filling roles that maybe they won't fill, or just like it'll allow the industry to expand and more jobs will be created as a result. So it isn't so like, okay, more workers from out of the country coming in just automatically means less jobs for Americans. That just isn't true, or it isn't so black and white. And the employment rate
good for America.
It's like, doesn't that seem a little bit on this a little bit? Isn't that the same argument just for population growth? Just a growing population in theory will produce, if you have a capitalist system, they're going to have more people creating jobs and companies and businesses.
Productivity per capita is much greater though if you're importing specialized labor and you
exactly.
So it's like
what would you say to the people saying that they are in fact losing jobs? It's a lot harder for a person graduating from an American university to compete with an H-1B1.
It's always hard, dude. It's like, oh, dude, life's hard when you suck. If you just graduated from university, sorry, bro, but you suck. Like, we'll figure out. You just accept like entry level.
Well, doesn't that imply then that the nation doesn't have a responsibility to you as the citizen who lives here? It has a responsibility to the capitalists and industrialists who are creating the jobs. Is that?
I mean, I think it's a mixture of both. It's like what Charles was saying. Like if you have a lot of
comfort, it's cold comfort to me if I graduate with a computer science degree and I can't get a job, and then you tell me, well, don't worry, it's good for the economy, dude.
If you graduate with a computer science degree, you just need to accept you need to sit in a call center for a couple years where you hone your skills, or you need to go to a better school and get better grades. I'm sorry.
It's moving. It's a movement towards a meritocracy and not favoring people who live
global
in.
meritocracy.
Dude,
Yeah.
a fresh out of college junior engineer.
But then that means that there's no reason for the nation state to exist, right?
Well, I mean,
This is a
Globalist.
country. This is a global country.
I mean, yeah,
anyone-
yeah, and
You're
also
competing
like,
with every single person in the world. Whereas if you're in India, you're just competing with everyone in India.
What, you want a
Or
nanny
Taiwan, you're
state?
just competing with everyone in Taiwan.
You want
Well, I think
a
it's a little bit
political
different than nanny
ideology
state, isn't it?
without embedded contradictions, Corval? You're dreaming. How about you move to Macedonia?
I would just like a clear. What do you call it? A clear goal in mind. Like, what is our goal? What is the purpose of this project? The project being the nation state. But look, we're kind of rehashing the points that everyone has been arguing over on
Goal
Twitter.
is, as every
nonstop.
other goal, going to the moon, Corval, and you
That's
know
true.
that.
We want to send the U.S. dollar to the freaking moon, baby.
And
Now-
having the most elite citizens of India coming to our country to participate in our economy is the only
Now-
path.
This is how I'm going to connect it back to crypto, though. Here is that I would say that crypto is a good example of this meritocracy thing playing out in practice, right? Because, like we said, you don't necessarily, with these funky corporate setups that crypto companies have, you don't really have this, need to import labor. You don't even know where the person you're hiring necessarily lives a lot of the time. If you're contracting a guy to build a project for you, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't this be like the perfect solution here, right? Crypto is the realization of this global meritocracy.
I think to a certain extent. I mean, we're like, I think there's an
Ugh,
argument to be
you know.
made that the fact that crypto is trading 24/7 without borders is like naturally fees and volatility, just by virtue of existing all the time everywhere, is going to have us outpacing any individual group in the world. And it's kind of like a financial expression of, what we're trying to do, which is like have like all the strengths of the world kind of unite toward the same goal, being like, let's end poverty, let's end homelessness, let's end hunger, let's improve quality of life of everybody. And I mean, obviously, like there's always going to be disparity, and maybe the end goal is like, I know a lot of like Silicon Valley Democrats want like techno feudalism, where it's like VCs are the kings and the lords of all, and everybody else is just a slave they import to, pilot their fake AI scams onto infinity. But yeah, it is like financially showing off what globalism is capable of, which is just way higher productivity, which is cool. It's like scary, and maybe there are a lot of downsides. I don't think I'm, well researched enough to know how stupid what I'm saying is, but at the very least, I think we can see the upside just by virtue of the growth and adoption of Bitcoin, and the amount of fees and volume it's able to generate as a result of that.
if you study, well, yeah, if you study economics, you'll realize a lot of it is completely fugazi. But what isn't fugazi is that free trade and open borders are good always, 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 always. So, what if you're Trump and you love tariffs?
No, what if you're Zimbabwe?
Yeah, it's good.
Is free trade good for Zimbabwe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can.
What about Canada?
do a.
Yeah, is free trade good for Canada? NAFTA is good for Canada. That's for
what if we
sure.
don't want what you're selling, Charles?
Someone does. Someone
Charles
wants.
and I will do a special.
We need to do a
Maple syrup,
background
episode.
check on this guy.
Political
We need to open
science
the borders
versus
and
economics.
allow expensive maple syrup into your country that is inferior to your native offerings. The economy will surely improve.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Damn it! I should have brought this up to my profs. I'd be down to do a trade episode.
You have a degree in economics, right, Charles?
Yeah, I do.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I remember like when we were first like getting into AI and trying to figure out how to like formalize DeFi systems, like tokenomic systems. I was reading a lot of research papers about economics, None of them had any conclusions. It was like we spent $1 trillion on this agent-based model that uses 1 gazillion supercomputers, and we discovered that nothing ever happens. Which, I appreciate, and it's like that every single paper. And I was like, okay, you can like you can just like look at actions, look at results, and use intuition at a pretty small scale. But I think at a global scale, it's like you can only look at the most abstract trends and just do your absolute damnedest with decades of research sometimes to figure out why the hell something happened that did.
Yeah. Trying to model like human behavior, it's like, dude, there's just no, I don't know, like economists will just try and fit in, like they'll just make up shit and just fit it in somewhere to like make the model work so much of the time, because they're trying to they're trying to model behavior, and there's no room for irrationality where like you have this core assumption that everyone's just going to behave the same and it completely in a completely irrational way. And it's just like you don't get super accurate results. Interesting to study, and like the methods are pretty interesting. Definitely not useless, but you kind of start realizing around 3rd and 4th year that like, okay, this isn't a science, like this isn't engineering. It's a bit kind of, it's just a bit fugazi.
Physicists have the best papers, I think, about economics. Like physicists are like physicists leaning towards statisticians, where it's like, nothing ever happens, but you can theorize that stuff may happen in the future. With a certain amount of probability.
You beat me to it, but there is like a burn I've heard before in academia that like economists are humanities guys pretending to be scientists. And that they're trying to create legitimacy for their study. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting thing to talk about. I love talking about that kind of stuff because it is highly debatable, right? There's very little consensus on almost any economic theory, really, when you play it out. I mean, there's some that are pretty set in stone, right? Like supply and demand makes a lot of sense, but often the system is too complex to model. Another thing I want to say about
game theory is really interesting.
The key assumption of economics, like Charles was saying, is that everyone's a rational actor. But then also a big chunk of a lot of, I guess, statistics and economics relies on studying like gambling behavior. But if everyone was a rational actor, I don't think gambling would exist on the scale that we see it, right? So it's kind of a contradiction inherent to the art itself.
Yeah, but that's funny.
We're spurging out, guys. We're being too nerdy. Let's go back to talking about something that matters to our people directly here. Okay, Beavis put out an interesting article here. Fake it till you make it, the truth about AGI. And in this, I found this tweet. Wait, where it is? This one. Yeah, here it is. Beavis references this tweet. Thank you for bringing this up. Where he's talking about an alternative to AGI emerging. And this is something that we talked about on the show before. This idea of AI swarms, the idea of like a single AI being the solution to your problems is not the case. It's going to be specialized AIs, which, we've been cooking up in the lab, right? We got AIs that'll be doing everything for you, but they're specialized. Now, this is something I kind of want to talk about in the news because the AI narrative has really ballooned in crypto to something about 50% of mind share, whereas memes shrunk down to like 10%, DeFi down to 10%. What do you guys think about AI as it exists right now? Do you think these current offerings are approaching the swarm direction appropriately, or do you think there's going to be a new mover? Do you think there's still room?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of, and it seems like every year we have an AI mini cycle, and I think a lot of times and I think the same goes for like every cycle, but you can kind of see new entrants into the market kind of following the Dunning-Kruger curve to a certain point where it's like they get in, they're excited, it's AI, it's cool. This is why low information investors do so good in this space. You get in, you're like, this is the future, it's awesome. And then you get into a little bit more and you're like, I think maybe this or this. And then, you get into it more and you're like, maybe nothing ever happens. And it's kind of like, you know, I'm seeing all these VCs and everybody posting like, AGI, this is the future, this is happening, that's happening, as if like we've been doing this in crypto since 2017, 2018, like Fetch AI and whatever, like these agentic swarms, agentic economies, whatever. This die has been, you know, rolled and re-rolled a dozen times. The difference is now there are low cap liquid tokens for funds to invest in and dump on us. But I think it's really kind of, I'm seeing a need for like a little bit of a reality check where it's like, hey, like, what is AI good for? What is it not good for? You know, and it's kind of like economics. It's like, okay, you have this probabilistic system that is designed to be as generalized as possible, and do anything that it can relatively well. And people are like, oh, if we specialize, it's going to do this one thing really, really well. And the reality is, most of the time, all you're doing is like you are reweighting, you know, your query into a different section of the LLM or whatever, and you know the output is like marginally better than what you would get with a generalized model. And you know, people are kind of intuiting, they're using their massive brains to think, oh, dude, if we just do this to the extreme, it will solve all problems, and we'll invent AGI, and all of our coins will go to the moon. But the reality is, we are kind of reaching the limits of what current technology and research is capable of, what current architectures are capable of. And you know, people think of swarms like, hey, if you just throw a billion fine-tuned models or whatever at a problem, it'll be better at solving it. But the reality is that's probably not the case. And the end point you get to is what we've had for decades, which is just graph algorithms, which is like, hey, like, what if you use search and recommendation to find the best result? And now the best result is an LLM that is intuiting the best result instead of what is truly, you know, defined by users as the best result. You're getting some aggregate of an aggregate. And so this is all to say that, you know, keep your pants on. I think there's like a lot of good innovation. There's a lot of stuff to be excited about, but don't let people sell you their bags. You know, look for research, study up, but understand like nobody in crypto knows that much about AI. You know, I mean, maybe Charles does, but
so now I'm trying to tie this back to how can we sell our bags? Don't let other people sell you their bags. But
well, let me tell you,
us.
I'll sell our bags real quick. You know, we started building AI solutions like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and pretty quickly we realized a couple things. One, fine-tuning models doesn't necessarily produce better results. You know, the best way to get a good result in a somewhat generalized system is to just use AI like a machine learning tool. It is a great way to implement machine learning into a process, but it is only a piece of the process. You can't point AI at a problem and expect it to perform at an enterprise scale. You can't expect it to perform with 100% certainty. And so what we do is we take these models and we arrange them in such a way that they're supported by graph algorithms. They're supported by retrieval augmented generation. They're supported by a lot of the deterministic elements of the blockchain. And that's one of the reasons we're so bullish on blockchain and AI is, you know, you can't have strict control of state or context or everything that's going on in traditional services. You can technically, but you don't have the same level of determinism. You don't have the same really broad, beautiful, trusted execution environment. And that's what's really cool about crypto and AI for financial use cases. And that's all to say, Big Tony is the future of finance. And frankly, I mean, I can show off a little bit how we manage Tony if you want me to whip out a demo.
Yeah,
and kind of talk about it. Why not?
Yeah, let's do it. Well, we're talking on AI and why, you know, there's a lot of false hope out there and what Big Tony does different. I think this is a good opportunity. While you prepare that, I want to throw this up on the screen. I thought this was kind of funny. The great rebrands, big ones here. Betting is prediction market, chatbot, AI agent, criminal, KOL, political science major, crypto researcher, and Dev, guy who clicked the launch token on Pump. I think it's pretty accurate for the most part. All right,
awesome.
So Deep's got the demo ready here for how we get Big Tony to work, huh? Or Codex AI to work.
Yeah, so
Same thing.
this isn't hooked up yet, so I'm not gonna show it off quite yet. It'll probably be done in the next week or two. But what we do have running is our bot dashboard, which we decided, hey, before we get the transaction builder out, we're gonna whip this out to show.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah.
This? Thank you.
Get out of here, Dex, you bloody bank chod.
Well, he's looking right at you.
Yeah. So essentially what we're doing is we're connecting a Twitter account, and what we're able to do is, and this requires no code, this requires no knowledge. You could be like totally stupid. And we're able to engineer prompts. So you can see these prompts are pretty complicated. We have risk management strategies. We have like adjustment criteria. We're making them sort of adaptive. I don't think the tweet tester is hooked up. Let me see. Why are you a walrus? I don't think it'll say anything. Will it? And it broke the whole thing. Yeah, I don't think.
Bullish.
Very bullish. But essentially what we're doing is you can see in his brain the limit orders he's setting and the limit orders that have filled. And I think something that's super cool is he will post his analyses. So on WETH and BTC, you can view his analysis. He's looking at charts on the 1 day, 4 hour, 1 hour, and he's saying, okay, this is what I think is going to happen today. And then he'll make a recommendation. And the cool thing about how this is all set up, and this will be, beautified by the time it hits the shelves, but you as a trader, you can flesh out trading strategies with your agent and then come in and learn from it, even copy trade it, or just have it run strategies in its own right. It'll tell you like, here are the actionable details. You can see he's spitting out some tweets. I think I was going to tell him to not, I was going to make a rule, do not use. And we're overhauling the personality quite a bit right now. And this is like almost rudimentary on the tweeting side. We're trying to improve it a lot. But the cool thing is like, you can add any token here. So let's add a token. We've got, virtual Brett. It can be anything. We'll have an address input. And yeah, it's like this for the user is the simplest prompting. But what's going on in the back end is we're creating a vast framework that will allow users to really securely fire these transactions off. And it's quite a lot of work. And, we're using AI essentially as a way to make it easy for users to use the system, not necessarily relying on AI A to Z for everything from inception to execution. It's like, we will translate your thoughts and your ideas into an actionable strategy and then execute that actionable strategy using more traditional means on the blockchain. And that's like, we're taking a user with no information and getting it to a point where it can interact. Whereas normally there's like this big barrier. And now the user can be like, oh, I want to make money. I want to do this. I have this trading idea. And you can just tell your bot to execute it. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Frasky had a question about P&L, visualizing Tony's P&L, seeing his DBank. I think if you want to see P&L and DBank, you have to pay them like $1,000 or whatever.
No, we'll so what we're going to do is we're going to spin out a few wallets that have very specific strategies, and then we're going to A/B test them live. So we're going to have probably 3 wallets. I want to have one that is like a low to mid cap AI investment fund that uses Cookie 3 data to find hidden gems. And we'll have a website where you can follow along. And then I want one using Allura, and then I want one using Social Chatter. Either that or just traditional visual analysis. And what we want to do is we want to, over time, like what I just showed you is like pretty simple. We want people to be able to choose strategies, choose data sources, choose contexts to kind of create their own, to a certain extent, strategy, and then they can choose from, hey, this is Big Tony XBT's P&L using this strategy over the past 12 months. Oh, here's this strategy over the past 12 months. Here's this strategy. So you don't have to think really hard about the prompt engineering and can just click a button and have everything be done for you.
Beast.
Fantastic, seamless and smooth. That's what we're working towards here. And complex on the back end. Very bullish, Beavis. Now, if only he can tell us why he's a walrus, but I guess we'll see that soon.
Yeah, well, Australians are another group that are good to put in the dungeon and torture. So once our beautiful Australian cohort is up and at 'em, we'll get them working on it.
Right on. Well, let's keep the show moving a little bit. I think that was a great demo. Hopefully you guys got some insight here into what we're doing with Big Tony. But let's move on to our next segment here. I call it Chuck's Corner, but we'll call it Partner Spotlight for now. Now, before the show,
go ahead,
Charles, because before the show, I want to make this clear. Chuck was begging me, dude. He was begging. He was in the DMs. He was pleading. He was saying, please, can I talk about Gamma Swap? Well, Charles, here's your opportunity. Tell us about Gamma Swap, dude.
And everybody at Gamma Swap in the comments on Twitter. So they
let them know that Charles is going to tear him a new one.
Shout out Gamma Swap. They're a good team, good tech, good project.
Bro, Corval, I got receipts, man. I got receipts, chats from you saying, I have nothing to talk about. Chuck's Corner,
Chuck, please bless me with some insight. Chuck,
yeah, we call that a bluff. I played you like a fiddle, buddy. Anyway, what is Gamma Swap, Charles? Let's give us a short and sweet. What is it? What do they do?
Yeah, hell yeah. I love Gamma Swap. I've been following them for like almost 2 years now. And they're getting a lot of attention recently because of their token, obviously, because they did a TGE and it went really well. They started a really low valuation, which I'm convinced is the success, the secret sauce to a successful TGE. But the token's just been up only, and now suddenly the tech is good. But newsflash, the tech has been good for a couple of years. So anyways, excited to talk about them. Okay, so a little bit of context. LPs, if you're LPing, you are short volatility. Most people know that. You want a lot of volume on all the fees, but you don't want volatility because volatility means impermanent loss as an LP. A lot of the times, like sophisticated LPs will generally look at the volume to reserve ratio in a pool. So reserves is basically TVL, but denominated in tokens. And they'll try and get they'll have a minimum threshold for how much volume it's generating relative to how many reserves are in there. So they want a lot of volume compared to the pool TVL. And they set a really tight range. And most of the time, really, really successful LP positions are out of range for the majority of the time. Like 70% of the time, they're out of range. But when they're in range, they're absolutely printing. And the LP will just have patience to know when to withdraw. So they'll let it be out of range for a long time. And then when it comes back close to where they entered, they'll withdraw. And for the time that it was in range, it was printing. So I guess the point was that LPs are short volatility. There aren't a lot of ways to long volatility in DeFi without taking directional bets. You can do it with derivatives, but it's really complicated.
Doesn't Carbon provide some kind of trading strategies that maximize volatility benefit, right? You set like a range of buys and sells, and you just kind of capture the volatility between that range.
You say Carbon?
I believe Carbon DeFi, yeah. You can they have trading strategies that allow you to capture volatility. But still, like you're saying, it's not really longing volatility. It's kind of longing a range of volatility.
Yeah, it's like you can trade and you can have like delta neutral positions or whatever, but it's hard to do that really simply and really cheaply and not have price exposure. So anyways, Gamma Swap gives people a way to long volatility really, really easily. And they do this via what they call perpetual options. It's called that because it kind of mimics options, but it can be explained in a way that you don't really need to know what options are. So there are two parties, the LPs, which are just normal LPs. They provide liquidity and they collect fees. The other side are borrowers. And what borrowers do is they borrow the LP tokens from the LPs. So borrowers are the perp option traders, and they're the ones that are long volatility. So what they're doing is the borrowers are shorting the LP token, but not the underlying assets, if that makes sense. So how this works is LPs will deposit an LP into GammaSwap. GammaSwap will take that liquidity and deposit it into like Uniswap or whatever DEX on behalf of the LP. When a borrower comes along and wants to borrow the LP token, GammaSwap will remove the liquidity from the AMM and split it up back into the underlying token. So the LP comes in and says, I want WETH USDC. They're in Uniswap, the WETH USDC Uniswap pool. The borrower borrows the LP token, and suddenly that WETH and USDC is no longer in the pool, and it's just the two tokens. GammaSwap will track how many fees the LP would have earned had those tokens stayed in the pool. The borrower is paying the LP the trading fees that they would have earned plus a borrow fee. So on the LP side, you're earning exactly the same as you would have had you just gone straight to Uniswap, plus a fee from the borrowers who's borrowing your LP position. When the borrower wants to close their position, the LP is remade. And here's the rub. This is the punchline. The LP is remade. Had there been a ton of volatility between WETH and USDC, it's going to take less of the underlying tokens to remake the same number of LP tokens because of impermanent loss, because of the loss that the LPs are taking with all this volatility. When the LP is made, the borrower is reaping the benefits of that volatility because they're profiting the difference between how many tokens were in the LP initially and how many tokens are in the LP once it's remade. If there was like no volatility and a ton of fees, obviously the borrower is going to lose because they're going to pay out more fees than they gained. But if ETH, skyrockets or dumps, it literally doesn't matter what direction the token goes. They're going to turn that loss, that divergence loss, into a gain, and they're going to profit from shorting the LP token and hence longing volatility. So super cool, and something I've been thinking about that in theory could be the case is like protocols like GammaSwap could sort of lead to a scenario where feeless DEXs are actually like feasible, because you could have like LPs could be compensated for the risk they're taking from other parties longing volatility and like taking some of the weight off of the fees that they need to generate. Like the borrower interest could be enough to compensate them for providing liquidity. Maybe not like totally feeless, but fees can go down now that there are people on the other side who are willing to pay to short LP tokens. So I don't know. That's kind of like a hypothetical. And GammaSwap would have to be huge, or there'd have to be multiple protocols like this.
Volatility would also have to be interesting enough. There'd have to be enough volatility for the demand for the borrower for this to happen. So you'd be seeing a DEX maybe with feeless swaps on like extremely volatile pairs.
Yeah, which I think there will be. I don't want to say always, but I mean volatility is a pretty consistent thing in crypto, at least for now.
So basically, you would essentially profit as the person borrowing, shorting the LP off of impermanent loss.
Yeah, exactly. And you're paying out to the LP, obviously. So, and that actually, there's another piece of this where the liquidations, there's no Oracle requirements because the liquidations are not price-based, they're time-based. So essentially the borrower has a position, they put down collateral to borrow this LP. they go, okay, you have a month until the fees you're paying are going to eat away at the collateral such that you're not collateralized enough anymore. So doesn't matter what the price does, you're not going to get liquidated. You just have a date. It's like you're going to get liquidated here unless you add more collateral or close your position, which is also cool. And they don't have any Oracle sort of dependencies. And yeah, you're looking at, so there's 3 different strategies. So a straddle is the LP gets removed and you have, 50% of both tokens. A long would be they're going to weight the more volatile asset more for the borrower. So if you want to take a directional bet as a borrower, you can, and you could benefit from volatility to one side or the other.
Crazy.
But yeah, super cool, really dope protocol, and yeah, their token is doing great. So that's another.
Well,
So you could think of their potential market as every single dollar lost to impermanent loss every year.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like
Pretty much.
It seems like a really nice inefficiency in the market they're capturing, which is impermanent loss, right? Where, I mean, who historically has profited from impermanent loss?
Arbitragers.
Arbitragers only. Pretty interesting. And I want to point this out. I think this is funny. This is what Charles is so cooked, dude. This is what he thinks is a token that's performing outstanding.
I mean, dude,
Well,
200 mil for a DeFi token
I'm
launched
joking.
in 2024 is like, I mean, of course, like it's only 10% diluted, but who cares?
Yeah.
A win's a win when you're the DeFi business. Good job, Uniswap.
Yeah, I think their airdrop, like they're like 2x above their TG price or their airdrop price, which is really good.
A lot of
especially
the issue with DeFi is once rampant speculation diffused, we realized that the target market of DeFi is the type of person that values tokens at 0 and they're just addicted to dumping. So to sustain such an FDV, I think is a great feat.
Yeah. There's another protocol that quick mention called Panoptic that Guillaume Lambert, who's the Uniswap V3 god researcher, is behind, and they're doing some really cool stuff with Uni V3 and options as well. So maybe we can talk about them another day. But look into Panoptic because they're doing some gigabrain shit.
His Medium is a really great source of information about technical Uniswap stuff. It's GUILLERME if you Google him. You'll know what you wanted to know about Uniswap V3 and then like a bunch of stuff you don't want to know. But I think it's,
Did you drop that in the chat? I don't know how to say that again. GUILLERME.
Guillaume, so GUILLERMELAMBERT. I might not have it exactly right, but yeah, it's kind of required reading if you're in the business.
Right on. Well, guys, let's keep chugging along here. That was fantastic. Thank you, Charles. That's a very interesting project, and I think our users can get some use out of it. Heck, maybe even Big Tony can get some use out of it sometime soon. But let's move on to our next segment and our final, second to last one for the show. Yearly recap, guys. So we've been very busy here at Codex, haven't we, this last year? Lots of things have happened. Let's start with the beginning of the year. We were working on chapters quite extensively. Lots of chapters launched. Things like Ironclad, Lore, Aurelius, smattering of others. How do we feel about them now, and how is their prospect looking through the year? In retrospect, how do we feel about the chapters and their performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think that chapters were an excellent learning experience. I think it gave us a chance to iterate very, very quickly. And I think what we iterated toward was an understanding that maybe there's not the same interest in DeFi as there has been in the past. And, when we kind of came up with the chapters system, I think it was mid 2023, like May of 2023 was when we actually started to work on it. The assumption was that, when the market turns around, DeFi will be in huge demand as the main driver of growth and adoption of network tokens. And the reason they're the main driver of adoption for network tokens is because if you launch a shitcoin, at a big scale, a VC-backed, billion-dollar token, the best way to grow it is by giving it utility, pairing it with other tokens, getting it used within finance. And, what we found was, sure, like DeFi had a decent amount of demand. I think DeFi took a total bath in 2024 and late 2023. But we found that the thesis was right, but the implementation was, what if we stripped away all the complexity and just created infinite beta? Beta being, here's an asset that's correlated with the network asset. And so Pump.Fun taking off, essentially, you can think of meme coins as this, that, the other, but if you think of them from the standpoint of Solana, if you think about them mechanically, here are tokens that are driving hundreds of millions of dollars of value in fees through Solana pools, driving the value of Solana as a core asset to hold and utilize, and taking a ton of Solana off the market through liquidity pools. Pump.Fun was basically all of the aspects of DeFi that are ultra beneficial packaged into let's do this at the greatest scale as degenerately as possible. And then you think about as well, everybody in so much profit in Solana, they needed ways to unwind their investments. They needed kind of heat sinks for all this liquidity and all this demand. And essentially, Pump.Fun created probably multiple billions of dollars. Well, certainly multiple billions of dollars of exit liquidity for Solana investors. And frankly, absolute genius move, because there had to be, at a certain point, high frequency trading firms, venture capitalists, stakeholders in the Solana ecosystem that explicitly thought, hey, we're in a lot of profit. We need to take a lot of it for LPs who, after the FTX explosion, whatever, they need a win. And they thought explicitly, this is how we're going to do it. Because so much of the Pump.Fun volume is institutional, it may sound funny, but a lot of it is firms, HFT firms from around the world, launching tokens, bundling them, sniping them, whatever, practicing MEV, and just clearing an insane amount of volume with very little risk to them. So it's hey, if we launch a shit ton of these things, if we snipe them and have the lowest cost basis humanly possible, we can pay off KOLs, we can pump them, we can do whatever, and just exit on demand with a ton of upside. And I would say the most winningest firms in crypto right now were the ones doing that. And, sucks to be an American. I don't think you could be an American firm and do that legally. But, that really, I think, shifted things in the world of crypto investment. VCs, so many VCs took a bath. So many VCs got wrecked. A lot of DeFi companies got wrecked. And so with chapters, it was dude, we have Codex, the new Codex tech stack coming out. We need to reprioritize and be less dependent on DeFi. So, Codex AI, we started investing in it more and more. We saw it bear a lot of fruit. Now we're at a point where I think we're an industry leader in financial AI infrastructure right now, or at least among industry leaders on the technical end. And then on the other end, I would say our DeFi is better than ever because we've optimized for the use cases people are looking for. They want stable coins, they want meme coins, they want volume, they want flow. And Taylor is totally right. I mean, the amount of money being laundered through meme coins and through Pump Fun it would probably make our jaws drop, to be honest. But the thing is, it's like we just need to play the game, and I think like, people like Solana because it's pretty decentralized, it's fast, and there's a lot of exit liquidity there. And that's why we see Pump Fun happening. But I think there is like a lot to be said about stripping down a lot of the complexity of DeFi, and making it so that pure network effect, pure like Cambrian explosion of utility. And I would say, like, I personally have gone from pitching blockchain networks or ecosystems on, hey, like, flush out the DeFi, go the traditional route, go the VC route, whatever, more to like get your skin in the game, start getting tokens on the board, start sniping them up, start pumping them, pocket the tokens and use them for market making deals, for influencer campaigns, whatever. Because the game has changed.
If I may, it sounds like to me that 2024 has really been like a year where, the goal hasn't changed. The goal is Codex AI. But what we've been learning is really how to best implement Codex AI to tap the market in the most effective way possible. So we experimented with chapters, and the market kind of did not respond to that. But what we found the market was responding to were, like you're saying, pump.fun type things, right? Quantity and speed, less so the intricacies. And so to that point, from chapters, we kind of go into Make Fun launch, and that's bundled with a few things. Here in Q4, we have the CDX USD launch, Big Tony launch, and Make Fun. And all of these things are kind of, again, harbingers of what's to come, right? We have an agentic meme coin, Big Tony. We have a line that I don't think there's anything like it in crypto, CDX USD.
Certainly not.
And we a launch platform, which I mean personally is the least exciting of the three to me. But what does this mean for 2025? Like going forward, what did we learn in the last quarter, and how's it setting us up for 2025? Are we going to be doubling down on CDX USD, on Big Tony? We going straight for the throat with Codex AI and the swarm agents?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all somewhat connected. You want to take a whack at a little bit, Charles?
Well, I wanted to just mention one thing, which is that just because like the chapters, maybe didn't play out to our wildest expectations.
They did good.
They did good, and especially they'd be making money. And I'll shout out Ironclad as kind of a standout, as a staple on Mode. And 2025 will definitely include some developments for Ironclad, and I know a lot of the core community members have been waiting for this like base announcement that's coming. I was doing some writing over the holidays about this, so yeah, I am very excited for especially Ironclad growing in Q1 of this next year. So yeah, and I'll just like definitely not. I wouldn't say I wouldn't go so far as to say failure.
I think that
and like anyways, people love our lending tech, so like people use it, and it makes me happy.
It's good tech. We were able to grow the Ironclad treasury to over $1 million. And I think like we're certainly revisiting the model. The model being, let's sell our product to foundations, ecosystems, whatever. But it's like we were kind of pulling up with a product that wasn't exciting because the market didn't go that way. It's like, hey, here's hyper efficient, hyper capital efficient tech. You can turn your native token into like this super high utility asset, which is great, but it's like, like the compliance hurdles, like to actually engage in the way we want to engage, were tough. And I think for us, like when I'm thinking about creating a relationship with a user, a business, whatever, if I don't see, once things get going, the opportunity for an excellent outcome, and a median outcome is great, But if I don't see the opportunity for an excellent outcome down the line, it's like, okay, we need to figure out how to get there. And I think that is like a lot of our reweighting into AI, a lot of our reweighting into some of the meme coin infrastructure. You can think of Make.Fun as infrastructure. It gives us a baseline to build solutions on top of. It's not like the end all be all. Like, we don't want to be a Pump Fun clone. The only Pump Fun is Pump Fun. And if you look at the volumes all over the place, you'll know that. But yeah, like, Chapter's really great in a lot of ways, but not necessarily as scalable or as exciting as we wanted them to be. But looking at 2025, it's like, the world of Big Tony, the world of Codex AI, the world of Make Fun, the world of Codex Lend and CDXUSD. Suddenly, we are bringing liquidity to the table. So the conversation isn't with foundations, hey, here's this awesome venue, here's this awesome platform. You come to us and bootstrap it, help us connect with your LPs, whatever. It's, we're going to come with the platform, we're going to come with the liquidity, and we're going to come with the utility. And just taking a lot of the capital inefficiency that our existing platform had. Because a thing that we learned is, like, if you're not a top 3 to 5 chain, you have no users. It's like you might have people farming an airdrop or whatever, but there's just nobody there. And volatility and speculation drives so much of finance. It's like, okay, once you have fees, once you have volatility, once you have some upside, some whatever, you can financialize every different aspect of that and create a lot of interesting products. So that's what we're looking for. It's like, we need to bring the volatility, we need to bring the fees, we need to bring the liquidity. And CDXUSD and the current stack allows us to do that. And then, to foundations, it's like, just hook us up with your influencers, hook us up with your fund, we'll invest in marketing, we'll invest in onboarding users, as opposed to, we need $500,000 for liquidity or we'll die, which is a really hard ask.
Yeah, for sure. So setting us up for the next year, then, continuing down this agentic path.
Yeah, I mean, we call it like AI agents, but really, we're creating AI products. Call them AI agents, call it an AI terminal, whatever. We're really kind of going to keep investing in AI. But the thing is, like, DeFi is still our number one moneymaker, and
DeFi to the bone, baby.
We're DeFi to the bone. And the thing is, like, the AI hype, once people start exiting these positions that they're hyping up, once the market dies down, cools off, there's going to be a lot of unwinding. Like, a lot of the AI coins, whatever, are levered to the absolute tits, which is fine. It's cool. It's great. But there will be a point where interest fades. And what a beautiful baseline to fall back on in DeFi. And no matter what is going on with whatever cycle, our solutions will matter, because every vertical that we're touching on right now, technically speaking, we're a leader. And really the question to us is, at the moment, how do we promote these products? How do we market these products? And for us, we're always thinking, like, how do we maintain autonomy? How do we make sure value ends up in the user's hands as opposed to VCs or whatever? And how can we build in the spirit of, I know it's cringe to say it nowadays, but in the spirit of Ethereum, being accessibility, transparency, building products that we think will change the world. And so we're not necessarily going to sell out or bend over backwards to fit the narrative or the market or whatever. But I think right now, like, we've got this badass AI tech, and I'm really happy that people are interested. So we're going to keep trying to give it to them.
All right, wonderful. Well, I think that's a wonderful note to end that segment on. We've got one last one here. We're at the hour mark, but I want to do the community shout outs here, because we had some new faces here winning on the content creation front. We've got Tim Schultz here, bull posting Tony in a way I kind of enjoy, comparing it to Fartcoin, the dumbest token.
Wow.
Shout out Tim Schultz. We got another one here. I like this one because it's a visual. You know,
Oh, dude,
Psycho.
this
one's
one
awesome.
made me laugh so much.
Yeah, I like this one too. Thank
If
you.
you guys aren't
Psycho.
digging into the Big Tony asset pack, you need to comment and ask for it, and we will link it to you.
Yeah, get in there, guys. Get in the Telegram, baby. We should have it posted in there as well. And Timmy Turns, the old standby. Thank you so much. I've retweeted all of these posts, so get out there and show them some support, guys. And now let's move on to, I didn't close this out. The
Wow.
wheel.
Showing
Yeah,
us
you
your
ready for
scam
this?
dashboard. How you always give it to
Yeah.
RJK.
Well, RJK and I have a deal, you know? Me, RJK, and Evo Sham.
Evo Sham.
Congratulations, Evo Sham.
Good job, Evo.
Let's go.
Next up, who's going to win? Big money. Charles, they could buy Canada with enough Codex points.
Ooh,
I don't
nice.
know. Jelva.
New user.
Hi. Congratulations.
You're now the recipient of generational wealth in the form of points.
And that's correct. Hopefully you'll be getting a new Toyota Tacoma with your airdrop. I don't know. That might be too big of a promise.
Dude, that's gonna be
And
tough.
finally, Pantau himself.
Santow. Good job.
Thank you guys so much. These are our users watching us from the Discord live. If you want to join the wheel and enter to win, be sure to just join the Discord. Easy as can be. And join the watch party. Now, I want to thank you both so much for joining us here at the year end. Thank you so much for the audience for tuning in. And we will see you in 2025. Have a great rest of the year.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Got that CDX token, we the ones chosen. Every stake, every you, while I stay golden. Codex Club, AI not focused, it's an anthem. CEX got them frozen.
Frozen.